Namaskar. Namaskar and welcome to the Ekam series on the Gita on the Go. Over the last few conversations, we have discussed the Asi of Tattvam Asi. We first explored the whole idea of Tvam, the human being. Who are you? What are your fears? What are your insecurities? What are your strengths? What are your passions? What is your commitment? We spoke about the idea of karma and the inevitability of karma that accompanies the basic human existence. And there from karma we spoke about detaching ourselves from the fruits of the karma, from the consequences of our actions, actions which exist not just in the body but also in the mind, in our emotions, and in the intellect and our thought. And how this journey was to be accomplished through the whole process of jnana, of therefore attaining knowledge, attaining wisdom, walking the path of knowledge before we can give up the fruits of our actions. And that is how we thus ended the first 6 chapters in chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, where we surrendered ourselves to the idam namama. I surrender myself and the fruit of my actions into this yajna that I perform. Thereafter, we understood the nature of tat, the consciousness. We understood and we spoke about the material nature of the universe, of that, where we spoke about the composition of the eight, which is the Pancha Mahabhuta, and the ego, the intellect, and the manas, the emotions, and how they are woven through in Prakriti. All of this comes to life as it is woven through the three guna. From this, the manifest Prakriti, we moved to the unmanifest, the nature of the unmanifest, the Brahman. And the nature of the unmanifest is the Sat Chit Anand. And as we journeyed through Tat, we explored further and deeper this nature of Tat, of that, of Brahman. We spoke about the Vibhuti Yoga. We spoke about how, in order to experience the Brahman, the first step is for us to be able to see the clay in all the pots, for us to be able to see that highest divine expression of Prakriti. How, when if you're focusing on the mountains, contemplation, we spoke about the Akshara Brahma Yoga. It is the journey of the Vibhuti Yoga, of expressing the highest divine glory in whatever we can contemplate on. And then from there, that journey from the Vibhuti Yoga was the journey then into the Vishwarupa. That utterly powerful, all-consuming Brahman and the expression of that Brahman by Bhagavan Sri Krishna at Kurukshetra to Arjuna. And Arjun's inability, our inability to hold on to that divine, glorious Brahman. That which is so overwhelming, so overpowering, so much bigger than whatever my mere existence is, that I cannot hold on to it till I am trained for it, till I have practiced for it with proficiency, with sufficiency, with constancy, till I've stayed on that path that leads me into the Brahman. And having thus seen, experienced, tasted that Amrita, that nectar, Arjuna is forced to ask Bhagavan Shri Krishna to come back into that tangible four-armed form that he can anchor himself into, that he can relate to. The Ishvara that pervades Brahman, that finds the expression and the manifestation of the Brahman, for this Jiva to be able to relate to and hold on to. And therefore, we ended chapter 12, which was the last part of that, on understanding bhakti. That would take Arjun from where he is to be able to stay constantly in that experience. See, this was the experience that Bhagavan Shri Krishna had granted him, the experience of the Vishwarupa. But that was the journey that Arjun needed to make himself, from the Jiva that he was to the Brahman that he barely managed to experience. And this journey, as Bhagavan Shri Krishna tells him, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, by the way, has told Arjun this even in the context of Karma Yoga, as he repeats in the context of the Bhakti Yoga, but now with a more powerful emphasis. Remember the analogy of our spirals, where we come back a full circle but at an elevated plane. So, where in the context of karma we spoke about the Chatushta, which was the Chatushta of Vairagya, Vivek, Shad and Mumukshatva. Now, Bhagavan Sri Krishna comes back to it in the context of bhakti and tells Arjun that it's the same four things that you need to practice now with the elevated consciousness of the experience that you have had, now with the knowledge of knowing what you had seen of the Vishwarup of the Brahman. In the first part, when we were doing it as part of Tvam, this was part of sadhana. This was part of sadhana to be able to detach yourself from the karma phala. Now, it's the same four behaviors and practices that Arjun needed to do in order for him to be able to experience the absolute divine consciousness, which is the Brahman. And in order for him to be able to experience that, it's the same four practices of Nitya Anitya Viveka, the ability to tell the temporary from the eternal, the Ihamutra Karma Phala Vairagya, the ability to distance yourself from the phala of your karma, the Shad and Mumukshatva. And with that, we then stepped into Asi, Tattvam Asi, R. And this, the last part, the last 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are essentially telling you how to make that journey from the Jiva to the Brahman. And in fact, that is how the first chapter of the third part of the Bhagavad Gita, which is chapter 13, begins, which is the Kshetra Kshetragya Yoga. Personally, that has been my favorite chapter forever, actually. And in the Kshetra Kshetragya, Bhagavan Sri Krishna beautifully tells Arjun that everything that you play in, your prakriti, the experience of your body, your mind, your intellect, that's all the kshetra. Everything that changes is the kshetra. Everything that moves and is constantly evolving is the field, the kshetra. And then there is the kshetragya, that which is eternal, that which is constant, that which never changes. And that kshetragya is you beyond the identification with the body, with the mind, with the intellect. And this journey from the kshetra to the kshetragya goes through 6 levels of the knower. The first being the upadrashta, the witness. From the witness, you become the permitter, the anumanta. From the anumanta, you become the supporter, which is the bharta. And after that, you become the controller of the body, the mind, the intellect, of the kshetra. You become the Maheshvara. And then from the Maheshvara is that quantum leap which takes you into the Paramatma. With this explained to Arjun, the logical next step then is to understand what the nature of this, what is it that the Paramatman, what is the relationship that the Paramatman has with the kshetra? How does the Paramatman express itself, manifest itself in the kshetra? And that is where came chapter 14, which is on the Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. And this is where Bhagavan Sri Krishna explains the nature of those 3 gunas, the 3 bhavas of tamas, of rajas, and of sattva. Bhagavan Sri Krishna explains it in the context of the rope, that these are the ropes that determine the nature of the chariot. 3 ropes that allow permeating and life force to be manifested through the Prakriti. And the nature of these forces is also very well defined. The tamasic is that which is dark, which is gross, which is indolent, which is lazy, which is inertial, the dark side. And then there is movement, which is the rajas. The rajas, which is of flow, of anger, of passion, of growth. And then there is the sattva, of detachment, of fulfillment, of peace. Bhagavan Shri Krishna explains to Arjun about how Rajas gives pain and Tamas leads us into delusion. We also spoke about this in the context that we at Ekam have been working on, which is the human unlock model, which actually integrates the karma, our karma, which is the body, mind, and the intellect, with our dharma, which we spoke about much earlier and will talk again about our spheres of existence, Swadharma, me, Aparadharma, with my context, mine, and Paradharma, which is my relationship with the universe at large, about the preservation of the laws of Rhythm. And we spoke about how the gunas are the three bhavas, the three states of emotion, are frequencies of vibration that then allow us engagement with this universe. At the lowest level is the tamas, the fears, that which holds us back, that which leads us into delusion, and which doesn't allow us to grow. The three emotions of bhaya, terror, of rodra, rage, of bibhatsa, disgust. And then there are the three emotions or the three bhavas of freedom that allow us to grow and explore, the rajasic emotions. And those three emotions were that of hasya, joy, laughter, of veera, valor, courage, the desire to do something. And then right at the top are the three levels, or are the three emotions that are of fulfillment, that are the sattvic emotions of pure sneha, love as in not an emotion as much as a state of being in love, of karuna, which is empathy, grief, compassion, and that of shanta, which is peace and detachment. And that these, being aware of these states of emotion, of knowing where we are, is what allows us to play in this and shift our consciousness. This we will talk about a little more. With the nature of the gunas and the engagement between the kshetragya and the kshetra now explained, the logical next question that Arjun has is about the nature of the kshetragya. And that is where we come into chapter 15, which is the Purushottam Yoga, which is about what is the nature of this highest spiritual consciousness. And here again we go back to Sat Chit Anand. And the beautiful analogy that Bhagavan Shri Krishna gives to Arjun is about that inverted tree, where the Brahman, the Paramatman, the Kshetragya, whatever we want to call it, is nourished. The roots of that tree are nourished by Sat, Chit and Anand. And the expression of this nourishment, the expression of this Brahman is found in the Vedas, not as in just the text Vedas, but in the concept through knowledge, through wisdom. And these leaves are then found expressed out. What then becomes important is also the understanding that Bhagavan Shri Krishna had alluded to earlier at the beginning of Kshetragya, which is about recognizing the Jiva Atman, which is the wave, and water, which is Paramatman, the Brahman, and the Ishvara who manifests it. And therefore making that journey again from the Jiva into the Brahman. With that done, the logical next question that Arjun has, or the next step of the journey therefore, is who do I need to be? Who is this Jiva? So we've spoken about the relationship between the Kshetragya and the Kshetra. We have spoken about the nature of the Kshetra. Now, of the Kshetragya. So now that logical question is, what is the nature of this Jiva? And that then steps us into chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the Deva Asura Sampada Vibhaga Yoga. This is where Bhagavan Shri Krishna talks about what makes the Deva and pulls you closer to the Brahman, and what is the Asuri Sampad which pulls you away from the Brahman. And while there is a very long list that he talks of in this chapter as Bhagavan Shri Krishna talks to Arjun, what is to be remembered in this and he begins this chapter with the word Abhayam. So what makes you a Deva and pulls you closer into the Brahman is fearlessness, is purity of intention, is the whole idea of just giving, of doing, of becoming the giver in that moment. That's what the Daiva is. The Asura is the one who takes, the Asura is the one who demands, the Asura is the one who receives. And here's where we spoke about Ravan as the Asura. The most important thing, besides what we need to do, is also what we need to shun. And fearlessness, as we realize, can only be shunned when we are able to pull out from the framework of aham and mama, of me and mine, and move into a space where there is no other, where I am Brahman, I am you, I have the ability to see myself in you. If that limitless is to be achieved, then, as Arjun asks Bhagwan Shri Krishna and Bhagwan Shri Krishna tells him, and as we step into chapter 17, which is Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga, Arjun says, how do I do this? You've told me, आपने कह तो दिया कि fearless बन जाओ, purity of intention ले आओ और बिल्कुल अपने आप को give करो और ये अहम और मम हटा दो और अपने और other में कोई difference मत रखो, सबको as the one देख सको. But how do I do this? And that's where Bhagwan Shri Krishna, in his poetic beauty, brings back the concept of the guna, brings back the Brahman, and brings back the Jiva and ties it together to say, your approach here, Arjun, to whatever you do needs to be sattvic. How do you ensure it is sattvic? Be aware of your action, of your words, of your behaviors. And through that awareness, figure out your emotion, the bhava that you're operating from. Why? The emotional state, the guna that you're manifesting, whether it is tamasic, whether it is rajasic, or it's sattvic. And once you're able to be aware of your emotions here, Arjuna, pull up a little further and examine your own intention. It is your intention, it is your niyat, it is your reason which will determine the guna you're operating from. Actions by them, and by the way, that will also allow you to distance yourself from the fruits of that action. And this is where we spoke about even the act of charity. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's food that you're eating. Notice what that food is. Is it tamasic? Is it stale? Is it rotten? Is it fermented? Is it rajasic? So is it very spicy? It is fiery, it is hot, it is salty. Or is that food sattvic? It's fresh, it's pure, it's light, it's not overcooked. What are you craving? What are you eating? The same thing as expressed in your work, in your attitude to work. Are you doing it for the gains that you're going to get from that work? Are you doing it with the resignation of work just needs to get done? Are you doing it for ambition and overachievement of your personal gains? Or are you performing that act or your work with the intention of what is best and good for the cause that you represent? And the same thing expresses itself in worship, it expresses itself in charity, even when you're giving alms. And it was beautiful how Samir and I discussed the whole idea of just the act of charity and how that itself carries your tamas, rajas, or sattva and brings out your intention. So here, Arjuna, it will be your intention that will matter the most in how you submit yourself and make that transition and that journey from the Jiva to the Brahman. Arjun says, how do I know what's happening? And what will happen? And how do I know that that transition has been made, Bhagwan? And this is where the Bhagwan tells him that when you are established with the dridata into your own consciousness, into your unwavering consciousness, you will become equanimous. Hey Arjuna, that is when you will realize that you have been established firmly with the dridata in your, with unwavering determination you are established in your consciousness. And that will lead you to be prasanna chitta. That will lead you into happiness. That is what will lead you into that identification from beyond your body, mind, and intellect. The parting words that came from Bhagavan Shri Krishna as he comes to the end of the Bhagavad Gita and his sermon to Arjuna is when Bhagavan Shri Krishna urges him that Sarva Dharmana Paritajya, give up the practice and the identification, which, as Samir and I discussed, has been hugely discussed and debated and misinterpreted. But what Bhagavan Shri Krishna is exhorting Arjuna to do is to give up the identification with the body, mind, and intellect and practice and practice and practice moving into the Satchit Anand. The interesting conversation after this, and this while we've come to the end of our conversation on the Bhagavad Gita, I've realized that this has been quite the personal journey for me as well with the Gita. As it turns out, and as I have firmly always been convinced, that we receive the Bhagavad Gita when we are ready for it. I realized that I had received different aspects of the Gita at differing stages of my life. And at every moment, in every moment that I heard, read, received the Bhagavad Gita, that was exactly what I needed in that moment, at that time. And I go back to chapter 1 and chapter 2 and chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, where all that Bhagavan Shri Krishna kept telling Arjuna is have faith. Is have faith in me, I shall provide. Have faith in me and I will rid you of your sins. Have faith in me and do your karma. And then through these last 18 chapters, how he has brought us up to understand ourselves, to understand the universe and the nature of the universe and the cosmos and the Brahman around us. And then brought us into the lab, told us the practice of it. And then, as he released Arjuna to fight the battle that he needed to fight, here we are, releasing ourselves into our own dharma kshetra, our jobs, our lives, urging us just to practice. Samir spoke about the 3 ways in which we learn. We listen and learn. Shravan. Sometimes that's enough. For a lot of us, that's not enough. So that's when we go back and we reflect and introspect. We do the manana. Sometimes that gets us there and makes the shift. And sometimes even that is not enough. So that's when begins self-practice, the Ninityasana. And for us to go back and stay at it constantly, practice, practice, and practice. In this journey, I am deeply, deeply grateful. And like I said, there is some level of faith, surrender, and trust to know that this is what I needed in my personal journey and in my work journey. And this is what I needed now. I have been in my practice for almost a decade and a half now. And yet it is only now that I have been able to go through this experience. And somewhere I trust that this is when I needed to go through this. And so therefore the only request I would have of you is when you see us, when you hear us, when you engage with us, share yourself with us. Tell us what your questions are, what your doubts are. It'll allow us to become better, work harder, find deeper answers. It'll allow me to bug Samir further and deeper and ask him more questions. So do reach out to us, do engage with us, do tell us what you feel and how you feel. There are also 2 people that I would really, really, really like to thank. One, of course, is Samir. Samir and I have worked together again for almost a decade now. And while we had a very professional, very working, very organizational relationship, I think very quickly we established that we were both seekers somewhere else. And so therefore, Samir came into my life when I was seeking certain answers then. and I'm very deeply grateful for Samir in my life, and for this journey of the Bhagavad Gita with him. I'm also very, very grateful to my friend Nitin Jay Shukla, who's also the founder of Om TV, for allowing and enabling us to manifest our conversations and our dialogues on the Bhagavad Gita into this format that you're consuming us with. And while I'm deeply, deeply, deeply grateful to Samir and Nitin, I have a request and I seek from all of you your thoughts on where you would like us to go next. We have our journeys, but if there's anything that we can be of service, if there's any seva that we can do for you, bring to you, answer for you, share with you, experience with you, we'd be more than grateful for it. So thank you for being a part of our journey. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Na 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 na